Hello and welcome inside the Sports Sermon. I am Dylan Staggy here today with Jason Gandhi and Dan Majors. And as you can tell by the title today, we have another NFL preview. The Cincinnati Bengals are up for today. Dan is a Bengals fan, so we'll get to hear his thoughts. If you guys want to see the rest of our NFL previews, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment what you think the Bengals will end up doing this year in the comment section below. But the Bengals come off a 7-9 season last year and made a few changes in the offseason, re-upgraded their offensive line after losing a couple pieces, including Andrew Whitworth a year ago, and the defense. They did make a couple of interesting draft choices in Sam Hubbard and Malik Jefferson, but besides that, most of it's going to stay the same for the Bengals. But one part of the team that was a little bit of a surprise that they didn't change was the head coach in Marvin Lewis. So my first question to you guys, what do you guys think about keeping Marvin Lewis? Was it a good decision for the Bengals?
I've honestly never been more upset about any of my teams before than when we extended Marvin Lewis this past year.
Please tell me you're kidding. Any of your teams. When DeAndre Jordan snubbed you the first time.
Okay, dude.
When the Reds lost to the Giants in that playoff series that you guys definitely should have won. I'm trying to think. When Notre Dame lost Alabama in the national championship.
Okay, I'm talking about like organization decisions.
For sure.
That was not on our. Never mind. It's definitely up there. Anyway, honestly, I didn't know any organization just like staying in mediocrity every year. Lewis has been given way too many chances and needed to be gone. He won't do anything this next year, and it'll be time to rebuild if it hasn't started already.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals, I guess, just don't like change, and they're fine with going back at it after a 6-7 win season the past 2 years with Andy Dalton, Marvin Lewis, and that same core that won them some that got them to the playoffs a few times a few years ago. But this offseason, the Bengals upgraded their offensive line, like I mentioned earlier, a couple of key pieces in Cordy Glenn and Billy Price at that center position. How much is this going to make a difference in last year's offensive struggles?
Yeah, so this is more, I really like the moves, but more because of the position upgrade than the individuals, like not because of Cordy Glenn or Billy Price specifically, but because they're going back to the offensive line. You look back in 2015, their last successful season, they went 12-4 when they had Andrew Whitworth, Russell Bodine, Kevin Zeitler, and Clint Bowling. They were one of the best offensive line in the league. Field Yates of ESPN said they had the best O-line in the league that year. Now the llast 2 years, 6-10, 7-9. And you look at those guys that were there. Whitworth, now in L.A. Russell Bodine with the Bills. Kevin Zeitler with the Browns. And Bowling still with the Bengals. Lucky him, the last of that crew. So for Cordy Glenn and Billy Price, they will now be able to rebuild this offensive line. I was just happy to hear that the Cincinnati front office is going back to the ways that made them so successful, which was building that offensive line. Because as soon as the offensive line fell apart, so did the rest of the team. So I do like the signings, especially Billy Price. If he didn't have those injury concerns, he would have been a lot higher in the draft.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We ranked dead last in yards per game, and a lot of that fell on the O-line after we lost Whitworth and Zeitler. I think these additions will help, as fan favorite Billy Price was just cleared of his pec injury, and I think Glenn will be solid also. At first, I wasn't a fan of the trade to move back from the 12th pick, but McGlinchey and Nelson were both gone at the 12th pick, so I ended up being okay with the trade.
Yeah, I mean, you did get 2 offensive linemen instead of 1, potentially. I think it'll help the Bengals a little bit overall in their offense, obviously trying to replace those 2 pieces that they lost in free agency a year ago. But I think the bigger issue for the Bengals on the offensive side is getting some other weapons to step up, such as John Ross, Josh Boyd, Tyler Eifert. If he can stay on the field, I think he'll be fine. But I think that's a bigger issue than the offensive line for the Bengals on the offensive side.
Yeah, I just think, for me, the past results show it. In 2015, when they had the best offensive line, they won the division. When they didn't, they didn't. Like, they still had A.J. Green, they still had Giovanni Bernard, they still had Jeremy Hill. For me, the one thing that changed was the offensive line play, and that's why I think I was happy to see these moves. I was like, okay, good. Cincinnati's starting to figure it back out again.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So let's shift over to the defensive side of the ball. The Bengals defense has gotten progressively worse since winning the division in 2015. Is this defense just past their prime?
I mean, I think they're still going to be league average. It's what they were last year. They were 15th in total defense and yards. They got two really good rookies that I liked coming out of college, in Malik Jefferson and Sam Hubbard. They got Billy Price offensively, like I said. I thought they had a pretty good draft.
Yeah.
Last year, I thought they got a steal in Andrew Billings. He was supposed to be a first, second rounder, fell to the 6th, if I remember correctly. Either way, the Bengals got him. And I really like those young pieces to go behind Perfect, Atkins, Dunlap, etc. They'll be league average. It's what they were last year. And, I mean, I just don't think – the same thing with the Ravens and same thing with the Steelers when we get there. I think they're just very average, where it's going to come down to who has the better offense. And that's where the Bengals have some question marks.
Yep, we were 17th in points allowed last year. Secondary wasn't terrible, ranking 8th in passing yards allowed. But yes, we've definitely gotten worse and older. I'm excited about the Sam Hubbard, Malik Jefferson, and Jesse Bates picks, but I'm still not very optimistic.
Yeah, I think for the future, those guys are going to be great. But this year, I mean, the secondary has aged a little bit, so I don't think they'll be as good this year. And you look at the linebacking crew, Vontaze Burfict, suspended for the first 4 games. He's up there in age. Vincent Ray, too, he's getting older. I think the defensive line will be great with Dunlap, Atkins, Johnson. But besides that, I think there is some question marks for the Bengals on defense. But my last question is for you guys, especially if the Bengals do not perform well this season, what should be the plan at quarterback for the future, and how long do you keep Andy Dalton around?
Yeah, so the plan at quarterback as of now, I mean, it's just they don't have any other options. They have Matt Barkley and Jeff Driscoll. Both are bums. I will say this, though.
Logan Woodside.
And, okay, all 3 are bums. The Bengals don't have the quarterback. I think this is just how it is. The Bengals do not have the quarterback on their team that will win them a playoff game. It's just not on the roster right now. I don't see it with Dalton the way he's played. But, like I said, there isn't a better option unless you're willing to pay up for a guy like Tyrod Taylor next year, or just wait until you find a guy in the draft that you're comfortable going up and getting a first or second round pick with. So for me, I think Dalton is just filling the void until they find their guy for the franchise in the next few years.
Yeah, Dalton is now 30 years old, and he will probably never play in another playoff game. He started off the year terribly, but finished really well compared to that first half. Matt Barkley is the backup, like Jason said, and obviously won't amount to anything, but that means we need to find our quarterback for the future. We took Logan Woodside, like I said, in the 6th round this past year. I don't think he'll amount to much either.
Yeah.
That means we got to look in the draft this next year.
I don't think it's going to be this year, though. That's why I'm saying. I think that's why I open it to multiple years, because I hope, as somewhat of a Bengals supporter, just like hoping they play well, they do not go, quote, all in for a quarterback this next year, because it's not a good class. I don't trust Herbert. Don't trust those guys.
Yeah, and also we need to find other pieces for the future before.
Yeah.
And also, if we would have kept McCarron,
I know, but you can't, because he was gonna, unless you would have gotten rid of Dalton's pass. You weren't gonna pay a backup quarterback starter money, because then there's enough issues in of itself there. My question to you is Andy Dalton still your favorite player?
Oh yeah,
gotta love him.
Oh yeah,
the red rifle.
I mean, I think this year is going to decide a lot for the Bengals at that quarterback position. Dalton was great in 15 and 16, but last year the picks went up and the completion percentage and yards both went down. And if the Bengals don't see any improvement this year, it'll be the 3rd down year in a row, and this quarterback situation might be a jump start into a rebuild for the Cincinnati Bengals. But before we go, I want to hear your guys' record prediction, their place in the division, and whether you guys think the Bengals will make the playoffs.
Yeah, so going through their schedule, their toughest stretch comes right after Week 2, when the Bengals play 4 2017 playoff teams, including the Steelers, in a 5-week period. But in general, Cincinnati has the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. But, like I said, they were very average, and that's kind of how this is going to be. I think they're going to go 7-9, 3rd in the division, and I do not see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, I have 1 win lower. I have 6-10, and 3rd in the division, no playoffs, obviously.
Yeah, 6-10, 3rd place, and just no playoffs this year for the Bengals.
Is there a way the Bengals get last in the division.
No.
Yes.
Oh my
No.
gosh.
I mean,
no way.
I mean, the Browns. I mean, we don't know. Their pieces could fit together really well, and we
No.
They
just haven't-
never do. Never mind.
It's
just
classic Cleveland. Like, it just doesn't work out. Like,
Yeah.
it's how it works. If it was going to work out, it worked out in 2014 with Johnny. That team was actually good with Travis Benjamin, Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
That team was actually good. Johnny just didn't get it done. This is not the team to start putting your hopes in. Like, they're still rebuilding. Yeah. No way the Bengals are in last. I think they could be in second. The Ravens struggle. They could be 8-8. Ravens are 7-9. Like, I don't think.
figure out the offensive line problem.
Exactly. Yeah. I think first and fourth is secure. Second and third, it's going to be who's more average and who's less average.
All right, so that is going to do it today for our Bengals preview. Any last thoughts from you guys?
Who dey?
All right.
Shout out to Red Rifle, Dan.
Yeah, so again, that's going to do it for today. If you want to check out the rest of our NFL previews, check out our playlist and subscribe to the Sports Sermon either on YouTube, iTunes, and you can also follow us on Twitter at the Sports Sermon, sports with a Z. Make sure you comment below what you think the Bengals, not the Bills, will do this season.
We
So
helped the Bills last year.
yeah, you did. Somebody made an Andy Dalton Bills jersey.
It's
pretty
facts.
And then
That's true.
AJ McCarron went there. What if they would have made AJ McCarron Bills jersey?
Oh wait, they did.
Aha. Dan's confused.
No, I'm
They
not
made a Dalton
confused.
jersey.
I understand.
You gave me a
All right,
confused
that's
look.
going to do it for today. We will see you later with more NFL previews.